Okay, so what I want to talk about today are what are known as stem and leaf diagrams. So, what are stem and leaf diagrams? So let's just write that. So stem and leaf diagrams. Okay, so again, stem and leaf diagrams are just another way that we can represent a particular set of data. So imagine we have this set of data. So I'm just going to write down some numbers. So we have 6, 9, 12, 15, 17, 23, 23, 26, 28, 30, 32, 37, 41, 42, 46, and 53. So imagine this is a particular, so this is your set of data, your data set. What we can do is we can use this thing called a stem and leaf diagram. So let's have a look at how we would go about using that. So what we can do is we draw this line, and the idea behind the line is that it separates the stem from the leaf. Okay, so on the left hand side you have the stem, so everything that goes in here is referred to as the stem. And everything that goes in on the right hand side is what's called the leaf. Now what we can do is normally what you do as well is you can make a key, so a key, and you can write it something like this. You could say 3/2 is equal to 32. So what that means is that this green line here represents the line that we've drawn here. Okay, on the left hand side that represents the stem, and the right hand side, so this is the stem, and the right hand side are the numbers that are in the leaf. So we can see that where we have the number 3, let's say in the stem, and then we have 2 on the leaf, that represents the number 32. So let's have a look at this and just see, let's have a look and see how it would work. So really what we're saying here is that, so if you think about your place values, so these are tens in relation to, so tens, and then the 2 is a unit. So units. So really what we're saying is that the stem number represents tens, and the leaf number represents units. So let's have a look and see how we will go about then and place these. So if we decide, like let's say if we look at the number 6, for example. So if we think of the number 6, so the number 6, if we think about the number 6, and I'll just do this for a few of them. Let me just make this a little bit smaller. Okay, so imagine, so what we're saying is that we can split it in two, okay? So we have the tens part and we have the units part. So what we're saying is that the tens part is going to be represented by our stem, and the units part is going to be represented by our leaf. So if we then take our numbers, so let's say we start with the number 6. So 6, in the number 6 there's 0 tens and there are 6 units. So how would we represent that? So we would put a 0 here, okay, and we would put, so that represents the tens, and then we would put a 6 here like so. Now if we have a look, are there any other ones that don't have a 10? So 9 then, for example, would also go into this column. So the number 9, it has 0 tens and it has 9 units. Okay, so again it would go on this, so the stem of it is 6 and the leaf of it is 9. So this piece here, this represents these two numbers here. So again, if we think about it, there's 0 and 6, that's the number 6, 0 and 9, that's the number 9. So next then, if we move on, let's say, and we look at the numbers, so let's say, so now we have this number 12. So 12, it has 1 10, so that's the 10 part. The 1 represents the tens, and the 2 represents the units, like so. So again, what we would do is, we're saying that the stem represents the tens. Okay, so we've put our 1 here, that's the 1 from the 12, and then the unit is 2. So this 1, 2 represents the number 12. So then we would also have, so we have 15, so 15 has 1 10 and 5 units. So again, the 1 here will represent the 1, and the 5 then will represent the 5 units in 15, like so. So that's 15. Then if we take the number 17, for example, so again, 17 has 1 10 and has 7 units. So again, it would go into this column. So we have 1 and we have 7, like so. So if we think about, so this second stem and leaf represents these guys here. So it represents data points that have a unit or a 1 10 and then the corresponding units. So then we can move on to the 2, so 23 then. So if we think about 23, so it's going to have, so 2, so it's a new stem, so it has a 2, okay, it has 2 tens and then it has 3 units, so it has 3 units. So we will put the 2 here to represent the 2 tens that are in 23, and then we will put 3 here, like so. So that's 23. So we see we have 23 again. So again, we have the 2, and we can just put in another 3. That represents the second 23. If we have a look here, so 26, so again, remember, it has 2 tens and 6 units. So the 2 represents, the 2 here represents the 2 that makes up the 10, and then we will put 6. We then look, so we see here we have 28, so 28, the 2, and then we're going to have the 8 here. So again, this here is going to make up this leaf, this stem and leaf. Okay, these guys here are represented by this stem and leaf, and then these guys here are represented by this stem and leaf. So we can continue on doing this. So then if we take, let's say, the number 30, so again it has, we're going to have a new stem, so which is 3, and we see that, so it has 3 tens, so the 3 here represents the 10, and it has 0 units, so we put in a 0 here. We have 32, so again it has 3 tens and it has 2 units, so we put our 2 in here. We have 37, so again 3 tens and 7 units, so we put that in there. So again, this here, all of these numbers are represented on our stem and leaf diagram, like so. And we can continue, we'll just continue on doing this. So let's just change color. So we have purple. Okay, so we have 41. So that's a new stem. So we're going to have the 4. So then we have the 1. So we have 1. Okay, so the 4 and the 1 is 41. Then we have this 4 and 2. So we can just put in our 2 here. So that's 4 and 2. Then we have 4 and 6. So we just put in our 6 here. We have the 4 represents the 10 part and 6 represents the units part. And then we have 50, so we have 53. So what we have here then, so all of these data points here are represented by this stem and leaf here. And then we have one last piece left. So we have 53. So again, we have the tens part and then the units part. So we would represent, remember the stem represents the tens part of the number. So we have 5 here, and then the units part of the number is represented here. Okay, so stem represents tens and leaf represents units. So this then, so what we have then here, we have what's known as a stem and leaf diagram. So I just want to take this out just a little bit, just from all of the numbers and things that we have. Let's just move this down a little bit. So what we have then here is we have, so this is what's known as a stem and leaf diagram. So it's really important that you're able to interpret a stem and leaf diagram as well. And I'm just going to take off the arrows just because I think you get what I mean. So let's just remove these. Let's get rid of them. Okay. So what we would say then, what we can do is, or what we have done here, so we've taken this data set and we've turned it into this stem and leaf diagram. Now let's say we wanted to, find, so we see here our key, so 3 and 2 represents 32. So what we're saying is that here's the 3 and here's the 2, and these two represent the number 32, which is a data point here. Okay, if we wanted to find out, let's say, so what does this number and this number represent? Well, the 2 represents 2 and the 8 represents 8. So this 2 and 8 represents the number 28, which is the number 28 that's in our data set. If we think about, so this number here, 1 and 7, what does that represent? The 1 represents the 10s and the 7 represents the 7s, so that's 17. So that's the number here, let's say, on our data set. So really what we're saying is that, like, you can see here, like, these are almost like a histogram to a certain point as well. Like, you could see that these are kind of columns. If you look here as well. So you can see they're almost like, it's kind of similar to a histogram. Except the numbers make up let's say, the frequencies. Say something like this. So what you can do is, if you look at this, you can see that numbers that have 2 as their 10th part have the most, they show up the most. Okay, so here we have all of these numbers here. So we've 1, 2, 3, we've 4 of them here. The least represented number are numbers that start with 5. So if we think we only have 1 of those numbers here. If we think about numbers that start with 3, we have 1, 2, 3 of them, they show up. Numbers that start with 3, that's them here. So again, it's just a useful way that we can represent a particular data set. And these are what are known as stem and leaf diagrams. So what you can do is you can construct one just like we've done based on this. Now it's important as well when you look, so again, the stem, in this case we're using the stem to represent tens, and we're also using the leaf part, this part, to represent units. But that will be dictated by whatever the key is. So the key will tell you what each one represents. And how do you interpret the key? You look at the key and you look at this number, and then you look at what it's equal to. So you can see here it's equal to 10, and then you look here at the 2 and you see that it represents units. So you know that that's how it's represented. It can be, you could have different types of representations with stem and leaf diagrams as well. Okay, so that's the basics of a stem and leaf diagram.